The WRX STI has been a favourite among enthusiasts for decades. A rally-bred icon, turbocharged, all-wheel drive, and engineered to conquer tarmac, gravel, and snow. But here's the thing. When it comes to export versions, Subaru held back. The true STIs, Japan kept for themselves. These cars are faster, sharper, more reliable, and more advanced. Reliable. You're going to hear me say this word a few times throughout this video. After fully scripting, editing, and recording this video, I decided to include some shots of my own car. Ironically, while doing so, it decided to prove me wrong on this reliability statement, catastrophically. So stay tuned for that. In this video, we're breaking down exactly why Japanese market Subarus are on another level, and what you're missing out on if you've only ever driven the export models. For the purpose of this video, we will be focusing on the GD models only. The GD models are very popular among enthusiasts, and are the models soon to be available for US importing. A problem that often troubles car enthusiasts is picking between a high-revving, naturally aspirated engine like Honda's K20 or a lower-revving, punchy turbo engine like Subaru's EJ25. But the JDM STIs came with something a little different. A version of the EJ207 that revs all the way to 8,000 RPM. That's not far off K20 territory, and it sounds pretty spectacular doing it. 8,000 RPM is exceptionally high for a factory turbocharged engine. It meant that you got the addictive low-down punch, the boosty drama of a turbo, and still had the freedom to ring it out like a Honda, a whole 800 to 1,000 RPMs higher than what we got in the export markets. Of course, higher revs means more stress, and if the internet taught us anything about Subarus, it's that they have a reputation for spontaneously blowing up. Having owned both a UK spec car and a Japanese import, I've got a lot to say in defense of Subaru reliability, but that's a story for another video. What really matters here is that not all EJ engines are created equal. The USDM or US market blob-eye came with a 2.5 litre EJ25, which didn't show up in the UK market until the Hawkeye. Before that, UK STIs used the export version of the EJ207, a 2 litre engine that's generally believed to be significantly more robust than the 2.5, and one of the more robust in Subaru's lineup. This is a huge bonus, particularly for Americans, who only have access to the weaker EJ25, aside from the EJ20 used in the Bug-Eye WRX, not to be confused with the far superior EJ207 that they never got. The earliest variants of the EJ207, known as version 7, used in the Bug-Eye STI, also came with forged pistons. So if you've always wanted a Subaru, but reliability stories have scared you off, maybe a JDM import might change your mind. The Japanese variant of the later version 8 and 9, used in the JDM Blob-Eye and Hawkeye, also came with dual AVCS, as opposed to export models which only had single. AVCS, meaning active valve control system, meant that both intake and exhaust camshafts had variable timing control, significantly improving outer boost drivability, putting the JDM variant of the EJ207 in its own league entirely. But the upgrades don't stop at the engine. JDM STIs also came with a superior turbo setup. Instead of a single scroll turbo, they used twin scroll turbos. Without going too deep into turbo nerdery, the idea is pretty simple. Twin scroll turbos split the exhaust pulses into 2 separate passages within the housing. This reduces interference between pulses and improves spool time. In plain English, less lag, more response, and who doesn't want that? However, one of the most divisive elements of this setup is the exhaust manifold. Even non-car people know that distinct Subaru rumble, that offbeat, throaty warble that makes Imprezas instantly recognisable. As Jeremy Clarkson once gracefully put it,
"Ooh, hang on, that is the throb of a turbocharged flat 4 engine. A sound which all over the world heralds the imminent arrival of a moron."
That sound comes mostly from the use of an unequal length manifold, found on export GD STIs. But with the JDM cars, to make the most of the twin scroll turbo setup, Subaru used an equal length manifold, which completely changes the character of the sound. Some people love the smooth, high-pitched note, others miss the rumble. Personally, I was a hater, until I heard mine hit 8,000 RPM. Now I appreciate both sounds equally. But here is what really matters. Equal length headers are better in almost every conceivable way. More efficient, more tunable, and more reliable under high stress. Equal length manifolds are usually a go-to modification for anyone aiming for big power from their Subaru. EJs tend to breathe better with an equal length setup, and it's believed to help keep the cylinder temps down on the 4-cylinder a prone failure spot on the EJ engine. So while you might sacrifice a bit of the iconic sound, what you gain is a more complete performance package. Feel free to fight to the death in the comments. It is important to note here that the import version of the Bug-Eye STI did not come with this turbo and exhaust setup. This version of the EJ207, known as version 7, instead came with a single scroll turbo, unequal length manifolds and single AVCS, but did still rev to 8,000 RPM. So if you're after the revs and the rumble, an import Bug-Eye may be the car for you. And it wasn't just the engines where the JDM cars pulled ahead. The same goes for the rest of the car. One of the major complaints made by journalists while comparing the STI to the Evo on track was its slower response in the turns. The JDM version of the STI mitigates some of this issue with a quicker steering rack. Something I can say from personal experience is very noticeable. With a quicker ratio of 13:1 over the lazier 15:1 on the export cars, every correction feels sharper, every input more precise. Complementing this sharper steering is a suspension setup that was generally tuned stiffer than the one we got outside of Japan. With firmer springs, dampers and anti-roll bars, Subaru wasn't trying to soften the ride for the average commuter. These cars were built with back roads in mind. Lastly, there's chassis bracing. JDM models came with additional reinforcements that improve rigidity, the kind of thing you might not notice on a quick test drive, but it becomes very clear when you're threading the car down a back road. The sum of all this isn't just a better handling STI, it's a more focused, more communicative driver's car. Beyond the big mechanical differences, JDM Subarus come with a handful of little quirks and features that enthusiasts love. For example, the JDM STI came with an automatic intercooler water spray system, designed to cool the intercooler more efficiently during spirited driving, a feature that export models lacked, as they only had the manual spray button, requiring a driver input. This convenience helps reduce heat soak without the driver having to think about it. I have discussed this feature with my tuner and a few other specialists who are under the impression that it's a bit of a gimmick, but a cool one nonetheless. One of the more subtle quirks is the electric folding mirrors, a minor but very useful feature, despite them having painfully loud motors, or perhaps mine are broken, I don't know. Then there's the rear wiper setup. JDM models come with a fully functioning rear wiper and washer system, designed with Japan's narrow and often rainy streets in mind, and an easy way to distinguish an import. These were also paired with factory xenon headlights. All fairly insignificant features, but cool if you're like me and feel the need to incessantly remind people that yours is a special import. Now for the bad news. As I mentioned earlier, after making this video where I praised the brilliant EJ207, mine completely destroyed itself. Like a moment from a movie, as I approached my cameraman for this B-roll shot, I jokingly said over our radio, "Imagine if it blew up on camera." We both laughed and I began accelerating. I quickly stopped accelerating after a loud bang, followed by the sound of my 4th cylinder rod bearing shattering into a million pieces, wiping out everything in its path of my 85,000 mile engine. This is the moment the engine let go, and to make matters worse, the shot has no audio, as we accidentally had the camera in burst mode, hence the stuttering. I have a lot of history with these cars and flawless reliability. With regular 3,000 mile service intervals, they've been great up until now. It just goes to show that the EJ207 may be one of the safer ways to get into a Subaru, but these can still be delicate engines and may still bite you with no prior warning, and the bill is not cheap. Despite this, I do still believe that the export models have a lot more to offer. So back to the video. Overall, the JDM STI comes out the factory standard as a far superior car to any export market car. Faster, more tunable, more exciting, and more exclusive. Not to mention, Japanese cars are often much better cared for and significantly less affected by rust than our own. Currently, prices between JDM and export models are relatively similar, with a slight premium on the JDM models. But I think this will likely change once GD series cars are available for import into the US over the next few years. So what better time than now to scratch that Subaru itch?